Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, a broker dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
So the learning about mindfulness is not so much about our clients. It's certainly not to teach our clients, because their clients have their own lives, and we are a great fiduciary is really just trying to help the client live into who they really want to be, but it does enhance our ability to listen to them and hear who they are. And then the other piece is the civilization piece for financial advisors. You and I know this debate goes on in financial advice about fiduciary, and fiduciary is a good thing by and large. And there there is a polarization in practically every level of society right now. And I wrote the book to try and bring an end to that. So please, if you do get involved with reading it, look at it in that way. But in terms of civilization, I think that the I I I mean, I think there's no excuse now that we're global to have wars. I think there's no excuse for media not to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And it's the same thing for government, the same thing for corporations. And we can do this as human beings. We can do this. So I call that world, and I've got a specific legislative proposal for it in the book.
Welcome to Money Matters. Today's episode could completely reshape the way that you think about freedom. Our guest, George Kinder, the father of life planning, is here to discuss his newest book, The Three Domains of Freedom. We'll dive deep into how achieving freedom in your finances, your inner self, and your outer life can unlock the kind of success and fulfillment that you've only dreamed of. And by the end of this episode, you'll have actionable steps to take control of your own freedom journey. Stay with us. You won't want to miss this. George, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Chris. Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to have you on the show. So that was our generic intro there. But just for as a personal note, just to share with listeners, I've been in the industry for just over 20 years or so now. And one of the first things that I bought when I got started was a copy of your Lighting the Torch. This very much influenced the way that I do my fight when I'm wearing my financial planner hat. And so I'm super excited to have you on the show. With that being said, is there something that you could share about yourself that's maybe outside of that traditional bio so listeners can get to know you a little bit better?
Well, I just completed. I mean, my work is all about life planning, as you know, and life planning is about figuring out what it is, what life would give you the most joy, the most passion, the most meaning, be the most profound life for you. And at the center of my life was never doing work. It was never doing spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It was, in fact, it was quite the opposite of that. It was having a spiritual practice, writing poetry, doing some kind of visual art. And so I just completed, was a 30-year project. I just completed a book of a 5-volume set of poetry and photography, um, attempting to inspire people to live with more presence, with really being really present in nature on a pond that I live on called Spectacle Pond.
Oh, I love it. So that is an area, I'm definitely I want to talk about the new book, The Three Domains of Freedom, but I am magnetized towards asking about that. I have a little cabin in the woods, a little 5-acre plot with a little pond. So the what you've been sharing on social media with your videos there, I've been watching them, just kind of intrigued with it. But for our listeners, we have a lot of we've got kind of a mix between your regular everyday retiree and then financial advisors who also listen to the show. For people who don't know exactly what life planning is, how does it differ from traditional financial planning?
So traditional financial planning is pretty much all about the numbers. And a client comes in, you kind of ask them, what do you want? And you listen to the goals, but primarily you're trying to put dollars to everything. Do- Um, and and put Um, and that, that works all right, unless the ladder's on the wrong wall. So the client will also often come in and their expectations, their thoughts about you are all governed by what news says, what personal finance columnists say, what Wall Street Journal says, what CNBC says. But the truth is that each of us has an extraordinary life inside of ourselves that we're meant to live. It may not be living in a cabin in the woods as you and I have done, or writing poetry or something like that. It may more often be being with the kids, being a better spouse, bringing more of a spirit of generosity to people that you meet. It can be all kinds of things. It can be a wild creativity, playing the saxophone in a jazz club on Wednesday nights. And that what life planning does is it focuses there. And and what we do, I mean, we train. My job over the last 20 years or so has been to train people to be life planners. And the first thing we train them to do, Chris, is to listen really well. So many of us have experienced the profound listening of a mentor, of a spiritual advisor, of a counselor. We pride ourselves in the listening qualities of life planners. So life planners are trained to listen and to build a relationship so that their clients feel very comfortable moving to what they really want, not the dollars and cents, not the retirement amount and all this. Because what do clients know about that? If they knew all about that, why are they coming to see you in the first place? Right? So
Exactly.
so we really ferret out what is it that would make an incredible life for the person that's sitting opposite us or the couple that's sitting opposite us. And and that's an incredibly rewarding thing. And that's very different from financial planning, where that's an element, but it's not the major element. I mean, all of our people, if you're a financial life planner, you're going to still be a certified financial planner. You're still going to manage money and that kind of thing. You're still going to have all the money aspects and be good at. But this is one where you put the client first.
I love it. I love it. And that is often when I'm sitting in front of people and even thinking about the three main questions that came out of this book that I will ask clients as well. How it really, can impact their life. How can life planning help clients align their financial resources with their most important life goals? Do you have any examples from your experience that illustrate this?
Well, I think every single person that goes through a life planning process um, aligns that passionate purpose that they have identified. We call it a dream of freedom. We call it the torch, which is the name of the book, lighting the torch that you have there. Um, where where all of the finances are meant to support that life of freedom. And that happens with everybody. I mean, we and one of the cool things about our trainings, Chris, is that when they're trainings of advisors mostly. I mean, there are some coaches that comes in, there's some attorneys, there are other professionals who come in and take the courses, but primarily they're financial advisors. And when they come in, it's a small number of people, typically 12 people, and uh, and what they'll pair up for the entire 4 or 5 day training. And so whoever you've paired with, you life plan them
Oh,
and,
wow.
and they life plan you. And it's real. It's not, like, let's play at this. It's real. So that everybody leaving that 4 or 5 day program is on fire about their own life plan. And they've figured out how to put the finances to it so that it will work. And at the same time, they've learned all the skills to actually do it with their clients.
I love it. I love it. As I was doing the research, I looked at your cabin, and then I looked at you have a home in Hawaii as well. Is that right?
I do. Yeah.
I love it. We were both me and my wife and my son. We were vacationing there last year during spring break. We were in Lahaina, but as I know that was the worst time to visit because the fires broke out then. But I love Hawaii. I think that's a great place. Do you ever do the trainings there in Hawaii, or are they just kind of all over the place? It just depends.
Yeah. I mean, at my advanced age, you can see that with the white hair, I've been around a while, and a couple of decades longer than you have in the profession. And So right at this point, at Kinder Institute, we have many trainers, and they're all over the world. But there's one training that I do, and it is in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay.
And no, I'm no longer the lead trainer because I need my breaks, but
Right, right.
I'm a significant figure there, and it's a lot of fun. So we have,
I l
yeah, right there with a 180-degree view of the ocean and
ah,
pasture between us and the ocean. It's wonderful.
it's my one of my favorite places. I love that. Well, I wanna pivot 'cause, your newest book, The Three Domains of Freedom, you mentioned freedom just a moment ago, and I think this is a good way to lead into that. In The Three Domains of Freedom, you talk about freedom as it relates to financial, inner, and outer domains. Could you explain how these domains work together to help individuals find greater autonomy in their lives?
Yeah, fantastic question. The the um, the the three domains of freedom. The secret to it is revealed in its subtitles, as you're paraphrasing them. So the subtitles are very succinct, very simple, and here they are. So the three domains of freedom. Each moment is yours. That's one. Number one. Number two, your life is yours, and that's life planning. What we've just been talking about. Number three, civilization is yours. And
Wow.
that's the one we're all troubled by right now, but it's the one. It's very important. It's terribly important. It's why, the political season is so important right at this moment. But I mean, what people don't realize is that, I mean, democracy is an incredible thing that we've arrived at, and we're so lucky to have it. And what it really is about us. And this is the other thing. I mean, right at this moment, we've gone global. I mean, yeah, here you and I are, we're in America, and America is the thing. But and it's certainly the political thing right now. But we've gone global. Our communication. I don't even know where you are right now, Chris, but I
I'm
know
in
that
Houston, Texas.
I'm half a continent away, right? And we're able to talk. And this couldn't have been done, 50 years ago. And my white hair, most of my ancestors had passed away by the time they were my age. And we talked about Hawaii. How many of our ancestors got to go to Hawaii? So there are these amazing things. And democracy is one of them. The technology that we have is another. And these amazing things are what the species is, what humanity is. And we are meant to be free. And if humanity is civilization, and civilization is just a war, it's full of polarized bullies fighting each other on the web. It's mean spirited things, left and right. We're not going to survive as a species. So this is an incredible time and an incredible opportunity for us to, in fact, define who is it that we feel we are meant to be as a species. And each of us is just one little vote out of 8 billion or something if we're using the whole world. But the fact is that we can communicate and we can influence our family, we can talk, we can listen, just like we do in life planning. And all of these are really good things. And it's part of participating in what it is to be human. So civilization is yours is the one that people get troubled by, but gosh, it's the most important in a way. But then the first one was each moment is yours, right?
Right.
And the first one is kind of this amazing thing. So your life is yours. That's life planning. And that's each of us has like a hero's journey we want to live on. We want to be somebody. And we've thought about that throughout our life. We wanted to be somebody. And that's life planning makes sure that happens. But what's odd is that how many moments are there in a day? And how often in that day are we driven by something rather than feeling free? So usually you and I have these cabins in the woods. Usually those cabins in the woods, right? They're meant
Right.
to, right? Feel free. We get away and we get to feel free, right? But what they are, and also inside of our hearts, they are like what calls us to simplicity, to truth, to freedom in a way that's pretty remarkable. Nature calls us in that way, but each moment we have the opportunity to be free, and that's an extraordinary thing. So I've taught mindfulness for many years and practiced it for many years. mindfulness is one of there are many meditative and contemplative techniques, and they all are good in this particular arena. But mindfulness, if you Google it, you'll find that it's for good health or for focus or to reduce your stress. Those are all right. But the real truth is that mindfulness is a practice toward the mastery of the present moment. And this is the two more amazing things, and then I'll pause. I've spoken, but the only moment we've ever experienced is the present moment. So why would you not want to have a mastery of that, to get more and more awake in that moment, to be more and more at ease in that moment, to be more and more happy in that moment, to be more and more vital in that moment? And the second point I'm going to make, and then I'll let you in, so to speak. The second point I want to make is that, and I ask this as a trick question often, or it's be 1,000 people I'm asking, and I say, "Hey, I want you all to raise your hand," and it is a trick question, but the question is, have you ever experienced a moment of freedom in the past? And it may be, at your cabin in nature, it might be walking the beach, it might be making love, it might be playing the saxophone, it might be, playing with the kids, it might be doing something entrepreneurial. Have you ever experienced a moment of freedom in the past? I say, I want you all to raise your hand. And of course, everybody does. And then I say, you all got it wrong, because we have never experienced a moment of freedom in the past. We've only experienced freedom in the present moment. So again, so a third of the book is really easy to read. It's very small. I think it's profound. It's got a lot of wisdom in it. So you can read it relatively quickly, but also it makes you think deeply, and it's inspiring. So all about freedom. There you go.
I love it. So that is a lot. A lot of really good stuff to unpack here, for sure. We started the interview at the beginning when we were talking about just kind of noise that, when we talk about life planning, that clients come in thinking about the numbers and their statements and all of this stuff, but it turns out that this other stuff is equally or even more important, right? And in this book, you go deeper and we talk about democracy, we talk about civilization. One of my things is I just want to leave the planet better than I found it. That's one of my personal goals, right? Sounds simple enough,
Beautiful. I love it. Yes, absolutely.
but it can be quite complex, right? So I love it. So this has been years of other writings that have led up to this book. Let's just expand a little bit further. How do you hope the insights from the three domains of freedom will impact the future of financial planning and the relationships between advisors and their clients?
Well, the centerpiece of the book is life planning. And again, it's a brief book. It's a short book. It's written for consumers, but you and I know that advisors will buy it like crazy because it's where I'm known. Um, and so the centerpiece of the book is about life planning. So it's a reminder of all these different elements of it. But I think the important thing for financial advisors to recognize, well, one of the things with mindfulness, if you claim the present moment as yours, if you make a practice of it, in every one of our trainings, we include some element of mindfulness in the training. And you go, well, why do you do that? And in the early days, I used to do it because I thought there was a connection with freedom, and freedom was very important. But over the years, I realized that the very best listeners I knew were practitioners of mindfulness. And the reason is they're more present. They've accumulated more of a mastery of the present moment. They've what any contemplative practice does, any spiritual tradition or any secular tradition, is that it lets go of all of those things that get in your way. It's like, the things that you're neurotic about, the things that you're clinging to, the things that you're you know, upset about, frustrated or angry or jealous about. And it practices softening those elements so that you can be more here with greater emotional intelligence and more presence. So the learning about mindfulness is not so much about our clients, and certainly not to teach our clients, because our clients have their own lives, and we are a great fiduciary is really just trying to help the client live into who they really want to be, but it does enhance our ability to listen to them and hear who they are. And then the other piece is the civilization piece for financial advisors. You and I know this debate goes on in financial advice about fiduciary. And fiduciary is a good thing by and large. And there is a polarization in practically every level of society right now. And I wrote the book to try and bring an end to that. So please, if you do get involved with reading it, look at it in that way. But in terms of civilization, I think that the I I think there's no excuse now that we're global to have wars. I think there's no excuse for media not to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And it's the same thing for government, the same thing for corporations. And we can do this as human beings. We can do this. So I call that world, and I've got a specific legislative proposal for it in the book. Call that world a fiduciary world, where all our institutions place humanity, the truth, democracy, and the planet. There you are with your issue there, and the planet ahead of their own self-interest. We kind of expect that, but we know at the same time it's just not true. Those large institutions have self-interest, and they are often going for that self-interest. And it shocks us when we see that they're not really there in a trustworthy way for all of civilization. Well, I think they should be, and I think it's a pretty simple thing to legislate and to make happen. So.
I, I love it. What a great conversation here. I think of the idea of stewardship when I hear you discussing this. I also think of just the idea of agency, the idea that it's very easy to become a skeptic, and a healthy dose of skepticism is okay. But if it makes it where you're not participating in these processes like democracy and civilization, it makes you think you can't do anything about it. So being this legislation that you're proposing in the book sounds fascinating. I definitely will dive deeper into that. We've got just a few more minutes before the end of the show. About 5 or 6 more minutes here, and I definitely wanted to ask you. This is a Chris thing here. The other book that you wrote, "The Reflections on Spectacle Pond." Can you tell me a little bit about that, because that is unique, and tell us what that was about?
Well, that was my life then. Um, so, uh, 30 years ago, I arrived at this place on Spectacle Pond, and but when you do light planning, you have this vision, and and my vision was to live in nature and to do creative work and to do deep work, spiritual work. And so when I arrived here, I was stunned by how beautiful it was to be on a pond. I mean, you're on a pond too. I'm in a peninsula that goes out into the center of the pond. It's just extraordinary. The feng shui, what they call, there you are with water all around you. When I got here, I went out, and for the first time since I was a boy, I bought a camera. Nowadays, we think, oh, our cell phones, how could you be without a camera? You've always got a camera. Well, that wasn't always the case, as you know. And so I went out and bought a camera, and I started immediately writing about what my experience was here. And what I came to realize was that I was on a journey to capture every single day of the year. And I did that in every week of the year too. So one book is every week of the year, and then there are 4 books for each day of of each season. So what I've tried to do on each day of each season is to capture in photography anywhere from 1 to 6 photographs intermingled together with poetry, and again, maybe from 1 to 6 poems on a 2-page thread. I've attempted to give you an experience of the day and of my own wrestling with, how can I be more present? How can I be more here? How can I be more kind sometimes? How can I be more generous? How can I be more thoughtful? But really, how can I listen better to the weather, to nature, to the leaves, to the walk, to the pond? And so, what I hope to do with that is to inspire people. I mean, Thoreau was on Walden, just 10 miles to the east of where I am right here.
Wow.
He certainly inspired me. And so I wanted to deliver something. I wanted to, in some way, to go beyond what he did and give something that every day of the year a reader would have something that might take them more deeply into being present in nature around them.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. George, we're bumping towards the end of the show. For listeners who'd like to find out more, they can purchase these books. Where's the best way for them to find out more about yourself and where they could get access to the books?
Georgekinder.com, www.georgekinder.com. And you'll find a lot about me, and you'll find directly the Reflections on Spectral Poet. We have a free version that can come out on a weekly basis, just one day a week. And that's through Substack, but you can find it through georgekinder.com. And
Perfect. For listeners who are driving right now, don't feel like you have to write it down because we'll have a link on the podcast. Substack's fantastic. If you sign up for it, it'll be able to kind of enroll you and you'll get more information there. George, the last few moments here of the show, what have I forgot to ask you that you'd like to share with listeners today?
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, it's been such a joy to be here, Chris. And I'm so glad you touched on these two books, because they really, I mean, for me, they've been my legacy. And I didn't know that I would get them done. I mean, that 30-year period, what if I'd passed away before I'd finished it? And so it was an amazing thing in the last couple of years to finish all that work. And
Holy smokes. What a great thing to share with us, George. What a good thought to leave it on today. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you for being on the show today.
thanks, Chris.